Well, here we are with the morning podcast again. Yes, I'm doing day 2 live, and I'm trying this time without the headset because yesterday we had some audio problems with it cutting in and out, and I wasn't sure if that was being caused by my headset or by the signal strength. We do have our spectrum set up now, and so hopefully that's going to make a difference. And we also have a little stronger Wi-Fi signal today, but we are still in the outside setting. So you may hear roosters, you may hear cars, you may hear traffic. There you are. The leaders have to be fiercely flexible. Fiercely flexible. That means committed to the process, getting it done, no matter what changes, no matter how it moves. You've got to bob and weave and dodge and duck and keep going forward. But all of that has resulted in the reality of we have a mission to do. We have something we have to accomplish. Now, if you're a leader and you haven't established a vision yet, you haven't decided what it is that needs to be accomplished by you, you have no idea what the end game will be when you're done. Well, then the task at hand is going to be even more complicated because you don't know if you're bobbing or weaving. You don't know if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. You don't know if you're moving forward or not moving forward because you got no way to progress. You got no way to measure. You got no way to manage. You've got to, as a leader, understand what your core beliefs are. You've got to establish those up front. As a leader, you've got to have a pretty good idea where it is that you're going to go. Know what the end looks like when you get there. Otherwise, you don't know how to get there. We've talked in recent past about building the foundation with the penthouse in mind. If you don't know what the top floor is going to look like, you have no idea what kind of weight it's going to support. Can you imagine building a 5-story building, and then when you get to the top of the 5th floor, you realize, I think I want to add one more floor, and I want to make that the pool deck so it'll be exposed to the sun. We'll have an open and closing roof, and we'll have an Olympic-sized pool. Can you imagine the amount of weight you'd be adding to that building on the last day of building? After the foundation is done and the other 5 floors are done, now you're adding water at 8.3 pounds per gallon. Even if you just add a 10,000 gallon pool, you've got 80,000 pounds of water sitting on top of that building. Was the structure made for that? Will the ceiling on the next floor down hold that if the pool cracks or leaks? What's going to happen to everything inside that building if the weight of that pool shifts? Well, that's a big, big deal. And all of those things have to be taken into consideration. If you get to the top of the 5th floor and realize we never planned for that, fiercely flexible doesn't mean we do it anyway. Fiercely flexible says we look at our plans and we figure out how could we accommodate this pool elsewhere. Maybe let's go ahead and put it in the bottom floor where most people do. Or maybe we just figure a way to skip the pool and build it beside the building. Fiercely flexible says we're willing to accommodate whatever it needs, but we also understand that some things simply can't be done. Well, that's where we come back to the vision and the core beliefs. What we believe to be true, to be right, to be the thing that we set out to do in the first place, those things shouldn't change. Who we are, why we're here, we may have a greater awareness of those things as they come along, but they shouldn't change dramatically in the process of our lifetime as a leader. Who we are and what we become is a growth awareness. It's about our mindset saying, I'm ready and willing and desiring to be better today than I was yesterday. I want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to be improved. I want to have a greater awareness and greater opportunity and greater competency and greater leadership skills. And so I work on all of those things. But the who that I am and the core beliefs that I hold, those are a little more complicated to change. They need to be firm. That doesn't mean they're never changed. That doesn't mean that some moment of awareness won't cause you to go, I've been looking at that wrong all my life. My money mindset has changed over the last 10 years in ways that I could have never imagined. And it has changed because I was firm to my core beliefs, but flexible enough to realize I was wrong. And people who led me in the past were wrong. And I had to learn from people that I didn't necessarily like because they had it right. And the people that I loved dearly didn't. That's all part of being fiercely flexible. It's the willingness, it's the ability to look at what's going on in your world around you and saying, okay, that wasn't planned for, but I get it. And now that it's changed, I have to do something different. Maybe that's your mindset. Maybe it's something much more complicated than your mindset. Maybe it's the relationships that you have, the style that you teach, the things that you teach. Maybe it's where you thought the event was going to happen and it's not going to happen there. Maybe it's how many people you thought were going to be there and they're not going to be that many people there. Maybe it's the plan that you have runs headlong in with somebody else's plan and yours is forced to change. All of those things can happen. All of those things will happen. All of those things should be expected to happen. The question now is, what are you going to do about it? Fiercely Flexible says we understand what the plan is. We understand what the agenda is. We know what our core values are. And as much as life forces us to change and adapt and overcome, it's not going to change the who that I am. It's not going to change my character. It's not going to change the basic core of what I believe and who I am. It might change my mindset. It might change my attitude. It might change the way that I cope with a particular situation or circumstance because the circumstance demands different than what I've done in the past or what I had planned to do in this event. That's okay. Relationships should be flexible. Events should be flexible. Teachings should be flexible. Principles, not so much. The things that you stand firmly on, your core values, those things that you believe about life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, for an example, those are core beliefs. They shouldn't change. When they do change, the whole world shifts. When core values are upended or disturbed or disrupted, everything shifts around you. And you've got to be aware of that as a leader. You've got to be willing to say, okay, that wasn't what I had in mind, but I will adapt and overcome even this, even with this change. Can you imagine, for an example, what it was like over the 50-year period from, let's say, 1929 to 1979 in Germany, in Russia, in the Eastern Europe bloc, when they went from basic freedom after the First World War, trying to figure out how will we reestablish our economies and our independence and our way of life, into a socialist dictator, communist kind of a background. And for the next 50 years, they lived under that. It wasn't until the end of the 80s that freedom was tasted again in the European countries. Or realize, too, that's 2.5 generations of people who grew up believing that was all there was to life. Many of them gave everything they had to get to the West, to Western Europe, to get to England, to get to the US, to find the freedom that their grandparents once knew. Well, that's a major, major shift. That's a change in attitudes. That's a change in mindsets. That's a change in political structure. That's a change in worldviews. And as we see the world revisit some of the ideas that dominated Eastern Europe in the 20s through the 70s, we see some of those things rising up again around the world. And there are people who are saying, well, we've never been there. We don't know what that's like. We've never tasted that, so to speak. Let's try it out, without doing the homework to say, okay, well, what did it really mean for the people who lived through it? Was that a good idea then? Did it benefit them then? Did it do them well then? Should we repeat that cycle? Well, many would say no, but many are still curious. Fiercely Flexible says, whatever tomorrow brings, I will hold on to my core values. I will bend like the palm tree in the wind, and I will continue to keep my roots deep. I will hold on through the storm, but I'm not moving. I might be battered when it's over, but I won't be gone. I might be bent during the time of this season of storm, but I won't be uprooted. That only happens when you're fiercely flexible and firmly rooted at the same time. When your core beliefs are firm and solid, and you know why you have them and where they come from, what is the source of these core beliefs? When you can put all those things in practice, realistically, you're going to find out that as a leader, a lot of people are turning to you as a source of wisdom and maturity and stability and calmness in the worst storms. Nobody wants to follow a leader who's frenetic and frantic and losing their mind, who's overwhelmed by any sense of chaos. They want to follow a leader who has their feet firmly planted on the ground, who says, I see the storm, we have a plan, or I see the storm and we're coming up with a plan, or I see the storm, that's not going to overwhelm us because we have a plan, or I don't know what the plan is going to be, but I do know that we will stand firm where we are. And when the storm is over, we'll reassess and we'll start again. A lot of people don't have that kind of stability in their life. They feel like when the storm comes, I have to go with the storm. They're more like a piece of paper in the windstorm than they are the palm tree on the beach. I'm going to challenge you as leaders to make sure that you know what your core values are, that you know that your feet are firmly planted on the ground, that you understand what your deep roots are, that you understand what it is that you need to bring to the table as a calm, collected, in command of yourself kind of a leader, that you know what's coming. Maybe if you don't even have a clue what's coming, you know that you have the ability to weather the storm and stand through it. But hold on to those core beliefs. Hold on firmly on the roots and let the top do what it must. We'll rebuild when the storm is over. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.